two bills are Senator Wiger's bills. First of all, Senator Wiger, welcome to the committee. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
We have got Senate File 126 and Senate File 127. They are both sound barrier bills, and the testifiers on both bills are the same. So, and they're going to be laid over. And I think what we'll do is let's start Senator Wiger with Senate File 126, and I believe you have an author's amendment on both bills. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment just changes the year from 2022 to 2023.
I would entertain a motion on an author's amendment on Senate File 126. I believe it's Senate File A1. All those in favor of the A1 amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The A1 amendment is adopted. Then we have this on Senate File 127. This is, I believe, an identical amendment. It's an A1. Is that correct, Senator Wiger?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I would entertain a motion on the A1 author's amendment. All those in favor of the author's amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Senator Wiger, you can address both bills at the same time, and that would be Senate File 126 as amended and Senate File 127 as amended. Senator Wiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, the Senate Files 126, 127 address the need for additional funds for noise barriers. There's an appropriation of $500,000 in 126, 127 gets bolder with a $3 million request with a specific request for Oakdale. This has been an issue for many years that the neighbors have continued to petition what can be done. They've gone to the city council, they've gone to MnDOT. There's been some measurements, but the problem persists. We deeply appreciate the opportunity now to present those concerns. And with me is Mayor Paul Reinke, the mayor of Oakdale, who will share a proclamation. The city council actually met last night, a resolution addressing the need. We'll hear from Monty Korf, to my left, a neighbor, and also virtually we'll hear from Bonnie and Doug Peterson. And they're speaking on behalf of many, many neighbors on both sides of the freeway. And then also in your packet, you'll have a letter from Vicki and Brian Capone, 2046 Helena Road, which further amplifies on the need. So that would be my introductory comments, and Mayor Reinke.
Thank you, Senator Wiger. Mayor, if you would give us your full name for the record, identify your capacity, and proceed with your testimony, please.
Very good. Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Renke. I'm the mayor of Oakdale. I've been able to serve in this position the last 6 years. 14 years prior to that, I was the council member to the same body. This issue is a prevailing issue. This is not new to anybody in the city, and especially to the residents who have several who are testifying today. So the noise levels are just intolerable, quite frankly. And we are appreciative of Senator Wiger's willingness to carry this bill forward. The efforts that have been made, the patience that the residents have had, it's just time. And there seems to be an opportunity to get this wall created, and it will be done with a heartfelt thanks. So, Chair, I'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next, Mr. Korf, if you would state your name, please. Sure. Just identify if you're here individually or representing an organization, and proceed with your testimony.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Monty Korf, and my wife and I moved into Oakdale in 1985, where this barrier would be 1810 Helena Road North. And it was bad back in 85, and it gets worse every year. I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'll make a couple quick points, and I'll talk a little bit about the neighborhood. One of the points is that we all know the truck drivers, it's very noisy for the trucks. And if you're gonna transport anything out east, you're either going down south to Albert Lee, or you're going through the 694, 494 intersection, and this barrier would be within a mile of that intersection. And the noise is very strong because of the truck traffic in that area. Another point I'd like to say is we have a barrier in that same spot on the west side, but not on the east side. So the noise goes both ways. So there's a problem in this area, and it should have been done a long time ago, and it's just awful, really. And it's going to get worse. I've been there since 1985, and it's going to continue to get worse. Neighborhood, we got a really kind of a cool neighborhood, very diverse neighborhood. I'll go through really quick. We got of the 7 neighbors next to me, they're all young families. I raised my family, my 4 kids, and they're all graduated Tartan and moved on. But we have 2 Hmong families, Hispanic family, and our African family, and 2 white families in this neighborhood. And the African family will have parties down in this area very often. And the noise is just, it's just horrible to have a party in there. We've had graduation parties, and you can't have a graduation party in your backyard. So, and when we were young, when I was raising my kids, we had a hockey rink down out in the back. They'd slide and everything. And now we got a whole new kind of generation of families coming in with young kids. And I'd love to have them be able to enjoy this backyard we have. There's about 300 feet, 400 feet maybe between the freeway and our houses. And it's just a great area for kids to play. They don't play that often, especially in the summer, and they surely could. So it's kind of a wasted space because of this noise issue. And then one more point I would like, if you have time, we had people come out and measure the noise on my property. I was there when they came, and it was, if you have time, it was really weird how they tested the measurements. So if you have time, I could go through it real quick, but if you don't, I get that, you can. So
My question, Mr. Korf,
Yep.
is the noise from the trucks.
Yep.
Is that from like Jake brakes, or is this
It's
just
all-
highway noise? from
It's
trucks?
highway noise, but it's a lot of semis and it's going through.
Okay.
When I was in my backyard, there's never a point where you don't see a semi going through. It's continual. So it's not like an airplane where the noise is strong and then it goes away. This is continual noise throughout the day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Korf.
Yep.
We have Doug and Bonnie Peterson online, and I am looking for them.
I'm here.
Well,
This is Bonnie.
I'm glad you're here, Ms. Peterson. I'm not seeing you, but there you are. Okay, I've got you now.
Okay.
If you
My
would
husband's
identify
not here.
yourself, if you would identify yourself for the record, and then just go ahead with your testimony.
Okay, I'm Bonnie Rick Peterson, and I live at 2046 Helena Road. And my husband's not here. He's actually working the high school tournament at the Excel. But yeah, we've been complaining for years. And when we first moved in, we moved in 93. And yeah, the sound was there, and there were absolutely no trees in the backyard at all. I have pictures where it's just bare. Well, then they came out because of the noise. One of the neighbors, they no longer live here, but they decided to plant trees back there to try to help with the noise barrier. And they planted them. Of course, it took a few years. They planted all poplars, but since then, I think most of them, probably died out or whatever. But I mean, even with all the trees, well, then they put that barrier wall back there. And after they put that barrier wall, the noise was like threefold. I mean, I go out there at night and try to enjoy the nice weather, and it's too darn loud. People come over. I don't even want to have them come out there because it's embarrassing. You can't hold a conversation. It's just awful. It's awful. Our deck, I mean, it needs to be redone, paint. It's like, why? We don't entertain out there anymore because the noise is just so bad, even with all the trees. And then to make it worse, our neighbor had issues with water in their backyard. And so they ended up having to cut down a bunch of their trees to fix that. And then the neighbors down the line from us wanted their backyards larger, so they started cutting down their trees. We still have all ours, all the way back to the freeway. But I mean, the barrier, I can see the barrier wall from here, and why they didn't put one in to reflect that sound back away from us is beyond me. But it's just, yeah, it's terrible. And I invite any one of you to come over here and sit on our deck any time of the day. In fact, I can take my computer out to the deck right now and you can kind of listen to it. With COVID and all that, the traffic has died down, but the semis, you know, they're talking about the Jake break-in, just the normal noise that a semi makes. We get like 2 or 3 in the morning, or okay, between 10 and 2 in the morning, we get these kids out here, and I shouldn't say kids, people that decide they want to race their cars or race their, their motorcycles, crotch rockets, and they got to be going 100 miles an hour. And I talked to a highway patrol about it, and he goes, yeah, we're aware of it, but they can't do anything, but they'll wake you up right in the middle of the night out there. It's like they're revving them up, and they got to be going over 100 miles an hour, but the highway patrol won't chase them because they say it's too dangerous, and they're going too fast to get their license plate numbers. So it's just, yeah, it's terrible. It's crazy. Like, again, I would invite any of you to come out and listen to it.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's just so frustrating. And you know, it's off 2 decibels. And you know, yeah, anyway, okay,
Okay,
I'll stop.
yeah, thank you. Your
Can you tell?
testimony
tell?
is passionate and very believable, and we really do appreciate the fact that you have shared that with us. There are some members that have got some questions, and we are going to go to those now. First up would be Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has a question to do with the language. I've read the letter from Vicki and Brian Capone, and they talk about the berm in regards to their issue of noise. But in the language of the bill 127, on line 1.9, it says where there are existing berms or other noise barriers, no additional noise barrier is required. I'm just concerned that with this letter and with this language, I want to be sure that if this were to be adopted, that the language wouldn't and inadvertently actually disallow a barrier for the noise.
Could I speak to that?
Senator Wiger,
Mr.
Wolf,
Chair?
go ahead.
So I would be one of those affected. I have the berm in my backyard. And when you listen to the noise, it goes, you know, loud, loud, and then quiet, then loud, loud. So that berm does break some of the sound. And it would be beneficial. We get a lot of the sound from either side of that berm right now. So if we don't get the wall, I mean, I'm fine with that. If it goes to where the sound is coming, I'm totally fine with that.
See, we don't have the berm.
Yeah.
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Generally, when they construct a wall, they do the wall. They don't go a piece and stop a piece. They don't do that. I mean, if the point is to do that, they build a berm. They don't build a berm, but if you have that, but in this legislation, you build that wall. It's a noise wall. They come in and they do it a one whole complete section. So my concern again, Senator Wiger, this may be for you a little bit more in that where there are existing berms, I don't know if that's necessary. And it might stop you from getting something done completely. One is higher than the other and different maintenance and so on. I'll just leave that as a comment, Mr. Chair, and then
Thank you,
it's going to be
Senator.
laid over and then we can work on it.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Senator Kiffmeyer, and thank you. The frustration is there was an elevation of the freeway several years ago, I think 10 inches or so. And then with berm levels and then another noise wall, it suddenly bounced over above berms, and it's confusing neighbors on both sides. So, if we get some momentum on this, we can further perfect the language. But we wanted to make sure that you knew there was a strong need, and what you heard from, the Petersons and others is felt by, hundreds of people on both sides of the freeway. We'll yield to, additional questions here, but
So, Mr. Chair, that answers my question. And yes, I do understand the noise situation. So, but thank you so much.
Okay. Next up is Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for hearing these bills. I represent the south part of Oakdale, and so my district also covers both sides of 694. This is just north of 94. And Mr. Chair, the committee may remember last year, you very graciously heard my bill for bonding, which we managed to do for a bridge over 4th Street, which is just south of this area. And I bring this up because it's all one problem. And what it is, and we've heard testimony from MnDOT over the years about this, we have seen such an increase in truck freight on all our highways, but particularly, as was described, anyone coming from the north, going point south or east, they come through this little, and it's just 2 lanes, part of 694. And right before you get to the 494 interchange, which is also completely inadequate for the amount of freight that we now see and that we know is going to continue to increase. So this is a very real issue. And I just really am grateful that you're hearing this. And I really hope that MnDOT will work with us to provide some relief for these neighbors, because it is that my sister-in-law and her family used to live there. My niece is also graduated from Tartan. And, these are wonderful family neighborhoods. And this is not a good way for folks to have to live. And it's not what so many of them bought their houses in that condition. This is because we've got all this increased freight has increased the noise. Thank you. And hi, Mayor Renke. It's good to see you. I'm sorry I'm not there in person.
Thank you, Senator Kent, and I do indeed agree with you. I hope MnDOT is listening. Next up, Senator Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a really. Yeah, okay.
Here, I thought you were.
Still something not right here. I've got my sound off.
There we go. Needed 2 mutes.
This is indeed a problem, and it's a problem all over the metro area. And there was an area, well, actually there was 3 areas that came one at a time in Egan, and 4, in fact, and we have done them one at a time. And one of the things that was offered by the city is evidently, now we do have that, MnDOT does do the survey and prioritizes based on a formula. And there was one particular area that I thought was worse than some of the others that were on that priority list. And I went out and measured the sound levels myself, and we've pushed it on the city. And evidently there is let's say, an encouragement that you could have MnDOT do the wall if the city pays 80% of it. If it's not on that list, if it's on the list and it is a priority in their program, the city is asked to pay 20% of it. And so what's happened now in Egan on that particular stretch of wall, the city has agreed to participate in that wall, and they are going to build it. Other thing that is one of the options too, which I don't know that it's really acceptable, is something called diamond grinding, and that reduces the sound tremendously. Now in Egan, where these 4 locations are, one of the biggest things, of course, it's increased traffic, it's louder motorcycles, but also it was going from 55 miles an hour to 70 miles an hour. That just made it unlivable in these places. And so MnDOT has looked at those and has so far put up 3 of the walls and is now has agreed to put up the 4th. So I'm hoping that there's, and part of the problem was that there just wasn't enough money that was put into the wall program Now we have the ability to perhaps put some more money into that wall program. So I'm supportive of your request, Senator Wiger. So we need to do this because you can't live next to these freeways when it's that loud.
Thank you, Senator Carlson. Senator Dibble.
Chair, I think Senator Johnson Stewart was ahead of me. I saw her hand up before mine.
Could be.
I don't want to jump out of queue.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Nobody heard me say age before.
I'm just looking at yellow hands on the computer. Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Dibble. I'll be quick. First off, I don't think diamond grinding will work because I don't see that pavement is tined. So that's what causes the big noise in concrete pavement is when it's grooved, like on 394 west of downtown. But I just want everybody to know there's 63,000 cars that drive on that stretch of road a day. So I feel your pain. I just have a quick question. How did you come up with the 3.5 million? Do you have an engineer's estimate on that? Or is that based on, what is it based on? That's my
Senator Wiger.
question.
Mr. Chair, Senator Johnson Stewart. I asked Senate Council or in the revisor's office to draft something that would provide funds, and it's our best guess as to how to address it. It can be further refined if you are going in the direction of meeting the needs for noise barriers.
Senator
Hey.
Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one other question. This may be for staff. I just want to raise the question. I thought MnDOT had a noise wall policy where a certain percentage of the neighbors have to vote for it in order for it to be approved. Has this neighborhood gone through that process? Are you aware of that policy? That's my question. Thank you.
Anyone in the room from MnDOT? No one is coming forward.
Mr. Chair, it sounds like that wouldn't be an issue. I mean, I'm assuming, I'm just saying that may be an additional step for you.
Okay, thank you. One second. Just been pointed out, Mr. Dukic is online. Can you help us with that question?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, John Dukic here with MnDOT Government Affairs, and we have someone from our noise wall barrier office on Natalie Reese, who might be able to respond to this question.
And that is Mr. Reese?
Yes. Yes.
Hi, Ms. Reese, Chair Newman.
Oh, yes, there you are. Okay, yeah. Identify yourself, please, and proceed with your testimony on this question.
Thanks, Chair Newman and committee. My name is Natalie Reese, R-I-E-S, and I work at MnDOT in the Metro District as the Noise and Air Quality Supervisor.
And can you answer Senator Johnson Stewart's question?
Yes, Senator Johnson Stewart, there is a voting process that we use for when noise walls are proposed as part of larger federal projects. So we do commonly use that voting program. But there also is a separate program that we have that is the one that Senator Carlson was alluding to, that we call the standalone program. And that requires a cost share from the cities. And it's actually a competitive application-based process where the cities apply for funding. So there's not necessarily a voting process required for that, but we kind of depend on the cities to know where their constituents are desiring noise abatement.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. And Senator Wiger, Mr. Mayor, I think you've got two new ideas that you could maybe explore. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My microphone is acting funny, so I'm going to use my neighbor's. Here, I'll shift this so I can be seen. So, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank Senator Wiger for bringing this bill and Senator Carlson for talking about the issues in his community. And I've been around these issues, these noise impacts and noise wall conversations. And I think it begs kind of a larger, this, we're kind of triggering a larger conversation, I think, and considering this. I think it's kind of astonishing that we have Senator Wiger feeling like he needs to bring legislation forward to have, on behalf of his mayor and his neighbors. Senator Kent spoke as well about the neighborhood impacted. Just the idea that there's a local cost share, that neighbors have to struggle and argue that there's not enough funds in the MnDOT budget to deal with the consequence of noise. That, when a roadway gets raised 10 inches and a sound wall gets put on the opposite and the noise bounces off into the neighborhood, these things shouldn't be happening. MnDOT, in building these facilities through our communities, should take absolute responsibility for the consequence on the health and enjoyment of the places where we live and go about our other daily activities. I will say that we had a fairly complicated, protracted, involved effort in a neighborhood that Senator Dietzick represents. Similar situation, the noise wall went up, the noise was deflected up into the neighborhood. And it took a long time to persuade MnDOT that there was this effect, this phenomenon. Their standard measures didn't quite reflect that. They didn't even think about it in the first place. Once we finally persuaded them to take measurements from the right places, the effect was demonstrated. And then I'll say MnDOT was great. They were very creative. They came up with an attenuation system, so the noise wall, blocking the neighbors on the other side from the noise remained, which was important, but then the deflection was attenuated through some surface treatments of the wall. But it took a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it was as if though the consequence of these facilities weren't top of mind with the agency. So I just wanted to express that. I think we need the agency to really think about noise more systematically, more programmatically. And it shouldn't be a question of resources. I mean, it just shouldn't be. MnDOT absolutely needs to take responsibility for the effect of their facilities. I mean, we need, we've got Mr. Houseauden here. We're happy that trucks are rolling through our communities, bringing prosperity and commerce all over, but they're noisy. They have an effect and a consequence, and we can deal with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Dibble, thank you. And as I've listened to the testimony today, I can't help but think about where I live and the deck that I sit on. And it's absolutely quiet, absolutely quiet. So Senator Wiger, thank you for bringing the bill forward. I do believe, and I agree with Senator Dibble, this is an important issue. Final words before we lay your bill over, Senator Wiger.
Mr. Chair, members, thank you very much on behalf of Oakdale, that you've heard the concerns. It's a problem that only escalates each year with increasing traffic. And with changes in the road, it's been exacerbated. Thank you, Senator Newman, for sharing that you enjoy tranquility on your deck. And it's absolutely unbearable for Monty, for hundreds of people on both sides, and they've gone to the city council. The city council doesn't have that money. They're trying to get a public safety building right now and address other issues, and so they come to you with the work that's done with MnDOT, and I sincerely hope that we can find a way to address an issue that has been around for decades and needs to be addressed, and you're in a position to be of help. So thank you so much for hearing our concerns.
You're welcome, Senator Wiger. Thank you very much to your witnesses that came in today. Thank you for coming. And with that, Senate File 126 as amended is laid over. Senate File 127 as amended is laid over. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Next on the